it's kind of refreshing, and I would say that because disaster movies is specifically a movie kind of genre. You can't make a disaster movie in a book. You can't make a disaster story in a TV show. It's strictly for the movies, and it's a perfect opportunity to talk about one that just recently came out. Of course, we're coming back to them again after we've seen a bunch of them in the 70s and the 90s.
Yeah, we did a whole month of those previous on this. We have tons of disaster movies on this channel.
Yeah.
So let's throw another one on the fire.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the show. I'm safely huddled away from the Twister, Kyle Goethe from Goethe Film Reviews.
Yeah, we're two Midwesterns. We know
we know what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Hey, thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continue to support the show. Another way you can support the show, I'm going to say it. Join our Patreon. There's some great deals, opportunities to tell us what movies we can review for future episodes, and great content as well. And you can also participate in the conversations of cinema with us directly. Mm-hmm. Of course, Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours. I didn't get my invite to this press screening. He did. I don't know what might have been. I didn't get a chance to get invited, but he got to see it at the press screening. What's going on? As if nobody knows.
Well, so years after losing friends to a tragic tornado experiment gone haywire, Kate Cooper has left the field behind, choosing a desk job at an NOAA office instead. When former colleague Javi approaches her to join in testing a new piece of tornado detection and scanning tech, she takes on 1 week in Oklahoma during a once-in-a-generation series of tornado-based strikes.
So I would say this is going to get some kind of accolation for special effects. It's special effects dominated, as you expect. I would expect a little more from the two stars that we got than I would expect more chemistry of it. I would like to see more of them. I think if we just saw them two together chasing twisters.
I wish it didn't take so long to get them together.
Right.
I'll agree on that. I do think they have really good chemistry in the movie, like for the time that they're together. And I agree with you. Like if you go to a Twisters movie and the Twisters themselves don't work, then you have lost everything. It doesn't matter what else you have if the Twisters are not working. But I will say, from moment one when they experienced that F5, I was tense in the theater, and I do inherently have a tiny childhood fear of tornadoes. They do like tense me up really, really bad. I used to have nightmares about them. So I go into this movie inherently being afraid of tornadoes.
Right. I think you get in your experience of the fear of it, also like excitement of seeing it. Not to mention, if you don't live in Tornado Alley, you don't know anything about these kind of things. But
and then it's less cows.
I love
around.
less cows and then chickens. I love chickens as everything's cool. Right. You're coming in there to see how catastrophic it is. This is disaster movies. And this is where it fits in. It's an experience of seeing in theater that's enjoying. But I would like to see, and I had to say it, I don't want to be that guy, but I would like to see more of the interesting characters. Tone down so many of them, maybe 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah. Well, because I think it comes down to Glenn Powell and it comes down to Daisy Edgar-Jones, and I adore both of them. Glenn Powell is playing the Glenn Powell character. Like, he's not having to stretch that hard in this movie, but I love Daisy Edgar-Jones. She was in that movie Fresh, where she dated Sebastian Stan and he was eating people and he was selling human meat. Like, she was in that movie and made that movie work.
Bucky Barnes, right?
Yeah, and so this was a case where I knew she was going to be great going in, but she is wonderful in this movie. She elevates the material so well. But you're right, outside of those two, and, maybe to an extent Anthony Ramos, but outside of those three, definitely no one is developed.
It's almost like they forgot about him and then like, all right, we're winding down here. We have to bring him back a little bit.
Yeah. But like the supporting group that's with Glenn Powell, the Tornado Wranglers, has some really solid actors in it. Katie O'Brien, who was in one of our favorite films.
No, I'm not saying to discredit them.
She's completely underutilized in the movie. Basically, Glenn Powell's entire group of people is woo girls. Like, they're people that are just drunk at a party and they're having the time of their life.
I think if you scale back how many people are in the movie and then focus on Daisy and Glenn Powell, and not to mention that vehicle can be a character of itself. That vehicle, right?
They convinced me that could work. I'll say that.
Right. It's interesting. This is almost like a student of Michael Bay. Mm-hmm. This feels very much like a Michael Bay. And it's not the tornado action scenes that feel like a Michael Bay, but when Glenn Powell's wearing a white t-shirt and a cowboy hat and it's raining and then he decides to load up his truck in the rain, that's a Michael Bay movie.
Well, he also got to do the Top Gun Maverick moment of the shirtless play out on the beach. So like people are getting what they're coming here for.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. I'm totally on board with it. Glenn Powell all the way.
Please don't think I'm discrediting it, but this is kind of a Michael Bay aesthetic.
I think it's Michael Bay, like, with its aesthetics, sure. But I'm so impressed with someone like Lee Isaac Chung, who made a movie like Minari, like a family on a small farm in, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, going from that movie to this movie. And I remember reading an interview, and I can't seem to find it anywhere, where he'd been asked, like, what do you want to follow up Minari with? And he said, I'd like to make a Twister sequel. Like, he had acknowledged, I would like to go and do that, because he was raised in kind of the Midwest area. He had experienced tornadoes. And so he wanted to kind of bring the disaster movie that he felt he could accomplish. And I think for the most part, he establishes that with his lead characters and with his story building. Yeah. But you're right. There's like, you know, the characters with Daisy Edgar-Jones' person, none of them have much to do. It's unfortunate for all the people that are going to come out and look for a reason to hate on David Cornsweet, because he doesn't have much to do in the film.
Right. All of a sudden, it popped out, and the audience was like, yay! Because we've seen pictures of him already in performance. But right, I do like the escalation. All of a sudden, they just go to rodeo, and then boom, like, oh, wow, we're surprised.
Yep. You know, and I joked about that at the theater, because I said, like, why would you go to the rodeo when you know what's going on? But at the same time, I remember getting done with a tornado warning and then going to my local county fair. Like, that is a Midwest thing to its core. Is like, danger?
Right. How many times it's like, time to go in your basement, but you're standing at the door frame open watching it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, I got a pizza guy coming, so.
Right, yeah. It has all the ingredients to be a great disaster film. There's a little upticks that I wish would happen. I do like that at the end, it's almost like the movie Twister homage, that they're watching a movie and the theater gets amped up.
Yeah.
There's a homage to the movie that they're seeing.
There's no way you're going to get a Universal movie that doesn't in some way reference the Universal monsters. It's like they have to, like contractually.
I thought it would be like a billboard or something.
Although I will say, as somebody who's watched Frankenstein enough times, that was aired out of order. There were sequences where the It's Alive should not have happened yet. Just saying.
Right, because that happens like almost like in the third act.
Well, he gets it like earlier on in the film, but it's still like it's out of place with the other scenes that the people are talking. And I was like, no, I don't think so. But you know what? Maybe they had to rewind because of the tornado watch effect.
So, effective movie. It's a wonderful disaster movie. It's fun. Check your brain out at the window before you go.
Yeah, because I really think that for all my faults with the movie, kind of like when we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie is a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll mention something else that I'm really kind of torn with is that I really liked Benjamin Wallfish's score for this movie.
Okay.
I thought the score was incredible. The problem with the score is that so often the choice was made to use soundtrack music that sounded like AI generated country music for a Twisters movie. None of it really fit the movie. I really loved the score though, and like the intensity that played up there. We just didn't have enough of it. So it's kind of like that movie where for every fault I have, there's like a strength, but it's a mix of that.
Yeah.
I still ended up enjoying it though.
Right. Yeah. It's not gonna knock you out. It's not gonna advance cinema, but it's nice to come back to disaster films
and have one that doesn't hinge completely on its legacy. I mean, this movie is so not tied to the original film outside of like the Dorothy machine.
No,
you know, it's
and there's
not
some
hinging
new
on that.
Elements to it. I'd like that they're trying to they can stop it scientifically.
Yeah.
There's some new add-ons. They're of course they're using drones and stuff. Probably if they do this again, it's gonna like send an AI out there to figure it out.
Yep. I think we're gonna get a Jumanji situation here though, where the second film is going to be so successful that I think it is going to jumpstart a franchise that we expected to see back in the 90s.
Okay.
I foresee there being a Twisters 3, and they're going to put the 3 in where the E is on the title. It's going to happen.
Clever. Clever. I can already see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I foresee this movie being very successful. I've recommended it to a number of people, and I think we need a lot of movies now who are going to bring people into the theater. It's unfortunate.
This
but
is
these
intentionally
movies are the ones that do
this
it.
is intentionally go see it in the movie theater because it doesn't work in any other platform of creativity. It doesn't work in a comic book, doesn't work in a book, doesn't work on a TV show. It's strictly disasters for the movies.
Yeah, and I saw the original Twister in a drive-in theater during a string of tornado watches. But I'll say this: I think I might be in the minority here. I do prefer this to the original. Oh. I do. I've never been huge on Twister. It's not a movie I feel like I have to go back to, but I am actively excited to watch this one again.
Yeah.
So,
All right. What do you think of our assessment? Keep the conversation going, of course.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Kyle and Nick on Film. And you can find my film reviews, including a little bit more on Twisters and my ranking of some disaster films over on GoatFilmReviews.com.
You can find my show, St. Paul Filmcast, Henry Fine Podcast, and go see a movie.